Okay, so this is a part 4 and update on the pre-ride prep. Pretty well done going through the Loctiting everything. Got everything greased that's needs to be. Just got the swing arm ready to go back on. There is some bushings that come out on the insides, on both sides. They come out, they were dry, so pull those out. Put some grease in, and it's just getting ready to go back and mount up there. It's easier to get this frame to engine bolt on the other side here, to get a wrench in here and do that bolt and Loctite with that thing off. Couple issues. Well, first of all, while this thing's apart, I wanted to show everybody that there is no adjustability. There's one spot on the swing arm the shock bolts to, and there's one spot up here on the frame. There is no, some of the information online, they claim that there's two spots where you mount the shock to adjust a ride height or something, but there isn't. There's just one mount at the top and one at the bottom. The other thing that's kind of non-standard, and it just is the fact on this pit bike, the bar clamps and whatnot, they have through bolts, and then there's nuts under the top clamp. So they don't thread into the top clamp, which normally they do on normal bikes. So it's pretty clumsy getting this thing all bolted together with the extenders there and the top clamp and the bolts and the nuts and holding the bars. And it's probably a lot easier with two people, just kind of letting everybody know that. These 4 nuts are actually in a bag that come in the loose parts, in with the user manual and stuff. So that's that. Another piece that I was having trouble figuring out where it actually was, it was in the bag here with loose parts. This piece here, I finally come to realize it sits on the top of the front fender when you bolt it up under the lower clamp, and then the number plate has some slots and the number plate goes down and sits down on that thing to secure the bottom part of it, and then obviously it has the center hole there. So that little bracket thing, I just come to figure out, and then it's got this basically bracket here is for that center hole in the top number plate. When it comes, it was kind of at an angle. You just got to straighten it out, tighten it down, Loctite the screw. Issues so far, the lower shock mount bolt that goes through here. When I went to take it out, the nuts started getting harder and harder, so the threads were already screwed up on this thing, and luckily I finally got the nut off, working it back and forth with some lube. So this bolt's trash. I get that in the works to get a replacement bolt on that. Another issue come up. I went to check the tightness on the front wheel rotor bolts, and one was just basically sitting in there, and it's just completely stripped out in the hub. So I've got talking to Pitster Pro tomorrow. They left me a message. They seem really cool. And I'm sure they're going to take care of all this. I'll probably just swap them out wheels since it's the hub that's just stripped out. But definitely check those. The other ones seem really tight, and they did have some Loctite on the bolt. But the hole in there, I mean, it's just, I don't even know if we can focus in to see, but it's completely stripped out in there in the hub. So that sucks. On the rear wheel, it seems like there's a couple spots where the rim is kind of pinched in, and the rim is kind of just has some distortion to it. I'm going to talk to Pitster Pro tomorrow about that. It definitely, when I spun it on the bike, it wasn't spinning real straight. It's just really hard to see, but you can definitely feel it. So the rims, yeah, they are what they are, but there's definitely some good distortion on the rear rim too. So a couple issues. Those are the issues I've come across. The other one I've been able to remedy when I went to bolt on the foot pedal assembly. The bend on this thing was really wrong. And the foot pedal part was sitting all the way under the cases here, to where this thing was angled down here. You wouldn't even get your foot to it. So put this thing in a jig and clamped it off about to here and started just playing with it, bending it out. I checked with T-bolts first before I even modified it at all, make sure this was even the right part. And they said, go ahead and see if you can bend it. So once they said go for it, I went ahead. Not super hard to bend. It's not flimsy, but I finally got it to where, yeah, now when you got your foot on your foot peg, you can actually get your foot on the pedal. So that is just kind of a pain. But again, it came and it had a really bad angle, and this pedal was actually sitting way down under here, and it was inaccessible to your foot. So that had to be messed with. It's not whatever. The spring's a little clumsy to get rigged up on there and get this thing on, but that's how it's supposed to sit in there. So you see real quick. And yeah, other than that, just kind of getting ready to put this thing back together. Still got to change the oil in the engine before we start it up, oil the air filter. But it's just a process. The other thing is, I ordered an aftermarket shifter. They've got a shifter that's an inch longer. I believe it's an inch, and it's got a folding lever, foot lever on it. This thing, I don't really like it. It goes on the shaft, and then it sticks out another inch from the shaft. And I just feel like if you were to hit this or something, it creates leverage, could snap that, possibly snap that shaft, the shifter shaft off. So the new shifter, I believe, this with the splines meshes on here, and it doesn't stick out so much further like this one does. And it's got actually a different shape to it, and it looks a lot nicer as well. So I'll show when we get that on. And then I ordered some Pro Taper wider bars for it. So that's the updates for now. It's definitely a process if you want to go through the whole bike, literally touch every bolt. Make sure that when you pull bolts apart, they are not stripped. They do come out. They go back in while this thing's under warranty. So it's just time consuming. Definitely different than when you just get a bike from a dealer and it's prepped and whatever. Anyways, just kind of working on it as time permits, and that's the updates. And the next update, we'll see, maybe it'll actually be running. And I'll let you know how everything goes with Pitster Pro working out these issues.